CEO and founder of Evolve, where we empower a leadership evolution that creates world-class leaders who accelerate business growth. I look forward to getting to know you better and being a part of your leadership journey. Enjoy the podcast. You and I and everyone we love, we're all trying to find a life of less stress, more balance, and greater purpose. And so what we're going to talk about today is about a lifestyle that is all about that and more. And it's called the ULA life. We want better connections with our friends, with our family. We want better health. We want more vitality. We want more money at the end of the month. We want financial security for our future, for our children's future. We want to go to a job that we love. We want to have fun in life, and we want to live a life filled with purpose. But the truth is that most of us don't. We get swallowed up by the unbalanced world around us, and we find ourselves living the opposite of that life. We find ourselves stressed out. We're out of balance. We have little to no direction in life. And so today I'm going to talk to you about this thing called ULA. So I found ULA in July of 2020, and I was at my lowest point. So I was working as an assistant professor at a local university, a Research One university, and I had just recently been promoted to program director. I loved it. I loved teaching for the program. It was all about working professionals. You actually had to have been working for a minimum of 5 years to even get accepted into the program. So it was my type of people. I just love working with adults, and particularly adults that have already been out in the world and experienced life. And so I loved it. I wanted the promotion. Everything was going great, but I was also recently postpartum. I had had my third child, a son, in late January of 2020. But because of COVID, they had also increased my course load. Plus, on top of that, increased the student cap for each of my courses. So I ended up having 66% more students than at the same time the previous year. And if any of you are teachers in any capacity, that's a massive amount of extra work. Because I'm not one of those people that just is like, oh, yeah, you got the basics of the assignment done. No, I want to give you feedback. Plus, these are working professionals, so they're constantly coming to you saying, my kid is sick. I had to take them to the emergency room. Can I get an extension? You're working with people. You're working through issues. And it's all very project-oriented, so you're helping them through projects. So it's just a significant amount of work per individual, not to mention increasing that workload by 66%. And then I had the promotion where I was in charge of this 500 plus student program, plus 50 plus full-time and adjunct faculty members. And it all just really started wearing at me. In the midst of COVID, my husband is a UPS pilot, so he was gone, like physically not in the house. He'd never flown so much in his entire life, to include when he was deployed in the military. And because he's, shipping PPE around the world, personal protective equipment for the COVID response. So of course, he's on the front lines, he's doing the superhero thing, and I'm at home, which is great, which is fine until daycare shut down. Right? So they shut down completely because of COVID. Plus, even when they were open, it was like up and down and in and out, because if you had a potential case, then they shut down, and other times they didn't. And it was just an absolute mess. I think we all know that, and we all experienced that. Well, because I was trying to work a 40 to 50 hour work week, maybe sometimes even more than that, plus have 3 young children at home. So at the time, my children were like 3.5, 2, and 6 months by the time, July rolled around. In fact, it was, probably a month, give or take, either direction when I fully had my break. And I was taking my laptop to bed to try to get work done, entertaining the kids during the day, but the kids are so young, they're all waking up in the middle of the night. So bringing my laptop to bed to try to get work done, made my bedtime late. Plus then I was waking up all the time in the middle of the night. So I wasn't getting enough sleep. And ultimately it just took a toll on my mental health. And I didn't even switch. I didn't even switch the slide for those that are on the webinar watching this. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, I will put the link to the webinar in the show notes as well. So you can actually see the slides that correspond with this. But I realized I didn't even show my picture. For those of you on the podcast, you don't care. But for those on the webinar, they're probably like, okay, this is a pretty picture of this title slide, but let's move on. Anyway, I digress. Like I said, I'm not going to go back and edit these things. You guys are just going to get me raw and real. So I mentally broke. I started having panic attacks and my anxiety was so high. And I finally, sobbing, picked up the phone and called for a psychology assessment. And they ultimately diagnosed me with severe postpartum anxiety and moderate postpartum depression. And that diagnosis was even hard hitting for me because I thought maybe I had like a touch of the baby blues. It's just a lot to handle, whatever. Maybe I have the touch of the baby blues. Oh no, like severe and moderate diagnoses. And that hit me hard. So I realized I needed to adjust everything. And I started looking into life coaching, but being a natural teacher, I'm like, well, if I'm going to get a life coach, why don't I go ahead and just get certified in something at the same time? Because the best way to learn something is to teach it. And I'm just so passionate about teaching and sharing. And if I'm going through it, I might as well be sharing with others. And so that's what I did. I ultimately decided on the ULA Life Coaching Certification, which now we're just called ULA Certified Coaches. I'm also an ULA Independent Ambassador for the e-learning program. And I fell in love with it because it's all about how out of balance we are and how to take tiny action steps every day that turn into habits that will ultimately help us find better balance, and then consistently reassessing that as we change and we evolve, because we're not always going to be the same. And so we can't always have the same system that we plug into. And a lot of the life coaching stuff out there is like, this is an amazing system. It worked for me. You should plug yourself into it. And you're like, no, because it doesn't work in every stage of life, doesn't work in every season of life. But this system that I'm going to talk about with you today is so incredible because it adapts to where you are. And it shifts with every new season, with every new day and week, actually, if we're consistently taking those action steps and creating those tiny habits. So with that being said, I'm Dr. Erin Myers, and I'm just so happy to have you here. And let's really dig into this framework and better understand it so that we can all change our lives and just find better balance. So one of the things that I really like to do is just share what works for me and what doesn't. And that's going to work for some people and it's not going to work for others. But this system truly adapts to everyone. So the reality is that most of us have gone through these ups and downs, very similar to my own story. And everywhere we look, we see evidence of this unbalanced world. You might see it in the papers, you might see it on the news. It's our socioeconomic climate that is just, scattered across everywhere. The political tension that is occurring. We have so much that's just going on in the world. And it's plastered everywhere. The paper, the news, social media, daily conversations. But what we don't realize is how much it affects all of the areas of our lives, plus that impact on the upcoming generations. So let's look at the stats a little bit. So think about the statistic 1 in 3. When we think about this, what do we think it really represents? What does this stat mean specifically to Americans? Well, when we dig into health and fitness today, we realize that there's a fast food restaurant around every corner We're becoming less and less active because we're all sitting on games, we're watching TV, we're, hooked into social media. So we've moved from eating these whole foods of our ancestors around a dinner table to eating processed foods in the car on our way home. Guilty as charged. Absolutely. I'm on the way to T-ball. I'm scrambling to get 3 kids there. My husband's out of town and I'm picking them up from daycare. And on the way, we just grab a Happy Meal because it's easy and it's convenient. But when we move to this, and particularly from walking and moving throughout towns and villages just a couple of generations ago, to now sitting in cars, eating these processed foods, sitting at desks and sitting on sofas watching Netflix, having these Netflix marathons at the end of the night, what it shows us is just how out of balance we are in the area of fitness. And so 1 in 3 is the statistic that 1 in 3 Americans are clinically obese. And the real problem is that it's now affecting our kids. The rate of childhood diabetes is considered an epidemic. And now that we've all lived through 2020, we know exactly what that word means, right? It is an epidemic throughout the United States. It's outrageous. So the next statistic we're going to talk about is 7 in 10. This is staggering. 7 out of 10 of us have less than $1,000 saved for an emergency. That means that if anything happens, the air conditioner goes out, a tire blows, or a medical emergency appears, we do not have enough money to fix it. And 7 out of 10 of us will have to go into debt to pay for it. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And speaking of debt, consumer debt is at an all-time high. And student loan debt has topped over $1 trillion. So we are so out of balance as a society when it comes to finance as well. Next is 53%. What do we think that represents? Well, this is a statistic that you've probably heard numerous times, but 53% of marriages end in divorce. But what that doesn't reflect are the marriages that are just barely holding on by a thread, the toxic family relationships that we all have, and all the other fun that goes into dysfunction. It is not fun. It shouldn't have the word fun in there at all, right? It is horrible. And I'm going to tell you too, coming from the pilot community, I just told you my husband's a UPS pilot. That number is significantly increased. It's close to 80% of marriages that involve a pilot, a professional pilot, end in divorce. Like, it's ridiculous. And again, that doesn't reflect those marriages that are just hanging on by a thread. The struggle that, those fights have on our mental health, our physical health, etc. Then we have 55%. The truth is that in the United States, 55 to 70% of people hate their jobs. So when we look at those last two statistics, right? So 53% of marriages end in divorce. And then this one right here, 55 to 70% of us hate our jobs. That means that over half of us every single day sit in traffic to get to a job that we hate. Or even now that we're, so many of us are still working virtually, we're sitting at our kitchen tables doing a job that we hate, wishing that we could be on the couch watching Netflix. And then we sit in traffic again to come home to a spouse that we can't stand. Even worse, if you're both working virtually, you're stuck in the same house all day, every day. And we do that over and over and over again. And yet somehow we call that life. But it's definitely not a balanced life. And then we talk about faith, the next component of a balanced life. And faith has just been completely removed. Now, you may or may not know that I actually grew up overseas. I spent 14 of my first 17 years of life living overseas. Then I went back for grad school. And I'm super open to faith. And so when I first heard faith, I'm like, oh, great, they're going to try to shove, some sort of organized religion in our face. But that's not true. What we're talking about here is just being conscious that there is something greater than ourselves out there. You could call that God, you could call that Allah, you could call that the universe, spirit, source, community even, right? There's something greater than ourselves out there. Sometimes we just have to step back and let the world around us play and know that what is going to happen is going to happen. And so because we have lost organized religion from our schools, mainstream books, the workplace, we have lost that connection to a greater purpose in general. Why can't we live in a world where all faiths are loved and respected by others? And it's because the world has become so unbalanced. We have swung the pendulum too far. The next statistic is 8 in 10. And this statistic just completely blows my mind. So everyone ever heard, most likely from a grandparent or, someone of an older generation, that who you are is who you hang out with. Right? You need to surround yourselves with the 5 people. I always hear this, kind of in the business and entrepreneurial world, the leadership world. Surround yourself with the 5 people that you admire the most and just live in their glory, live in their knowledge, use them as mentors. But the truth is that even if we've heard that before, you are who you hang out with, or surround yourself with the 5 people that you admire the most. 8 out of 10 of us still endure toxic relationships in terms of friendships. We surround ourselves with people who may have served us at one point in time in our life, but no longer serve our purpose. And they have become toxic. And so during this discussion today, we're going to talk about the powerful principle of unfollow, unfriend, delete to help us through this and to help us recognize this. All right, and finally, at ULA, in this system, we believe that at the end of our days, we should look back at our life with fond memories that include this gigantic list of epic adventures. I'm telling bucket list adventures here. Complete cackling at the dinner table, super giggles to the point where me having 3 kids in 37 months, I pee my pants, right? Let's just throw it out there and be honest. Meaningful moments that just leave this legacy and this purpose and this meaning, not just for us, but for all of the future generations. And yet, most of us won't. We won't end our days with all of that. Instead, we'll be taking our last breath, wishing that we had worked less, taken that trip, climbed that mountain, or said, I love you more often. And if you can't tell, I'm getting emotional and I have cold chills right now because this is just so true. I see this in so many different places. Let's not let this be us. We need to live a life of absolute amazingness. We need to live a life of balance. We need to make sure that we take that epic adventure, that we laugh until we pee ourselves. It's those meaningful moments that leave that legacy of purpose and meaning. And so now that we've said all those statistics, and I've mentioned this word ULA, what the heck even is ULA? What am I saying? Well, ULA is the solution to this unbalanced world. It's a lifestyle based on an international best-selling book. In fact, there are now 3 international best-selling books. It's a state of awesomeness when your life just feels balanced and it's growing in the 7 key areas of life we just discussed: fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. Ula comes from the term ulala, which is that feeling of ooh la la that we get when our life is balanced, when we're living that epic adventure, when we're peeing ourselves to sleep every night because we're cackling so hard. So it's ooh la la shortened to Ula. So who created this and where did it come from? Well, these are the Ula guys, Dr. Dave and Dr. Troy. And they are just absolutely incredible. They authored all of those books. They're social media influencers. They're personal growth experts. And they're the founders of this Ula lifestyle framework. But where did they come from? Well, Dr. Dave will openly tell you that his life hit rock bottom. And Dr. Troy helped get him out of it. So they first met when they were both chiropractic doctors, and they were working together. And Dr. Troy had just figured out, kind of through life experience, through generational knowledge that had been passed down, that the way to have balance was to have balance in these 7 areas. They weren't called exactly the same thing then, but he kind of passed this knowledge on to Dr. Dave as he was interning at the same chiropractic clinic. And Dr. Dave started living it. And ultimately, Dr. Troy was able to retire at the age of 42, having followed these principles, was super happy, had lived all over the world, was doing a vacation all the time, was supporting his children in all of the ways that he possibly could. And Dr. Troy seemed to be heading down that same path. But then suddenly, because life was so good, he stopped following these principles. He stopped checking in and rebalancing and figuring out how to change the system as his seasons of life changed. And he ended up going bankrupt, out of a job, losing his marriage, and was living in a hotel room on the wrong side of the tracks, trying to fit 5 children into a single room. 5 children plus himself. And so he ended up calling up Dr. Troy and he said, "Hey, dude, I know you're retired, but this is my call for help." And Dr. Troy told him, he's like, "You need to get back to Ula. It wasn't called that then, but you need to get back to that balance. We need to start that over and we need to find that again." And so Dr. Dave said, "Okay, if this helps me, if I can get out of this because this seems somewhat insurmountable now, then we need to share this with the world." And Dr. Troy said, "Okay, you can get yourself out of this. We will share this with the world." And that's how Ula was created. And so whether they're sharing Ula with thousands from the stage or one-on-one when they're on the Ula Dream Tour, which is where they take this old VW bus and they collect dreams. They literally have these stickers and you write your dream on it, your Ula 1 as we call it, and you stick it on the bus and it's covered in 27 layers of people's dreams. Well, their mission remains the same. Initially, it was to positively impact 1 million lives. They have done that. Now the mission is to impact 1 billion lives over the next 7 years with the Ula Lifestyle Framework. And that's why they've started the certification process to get certified coaches into this, like myself, as well as now this e-learning platform that just makes this entire system so incredibly accessible. So the biggest thing and one of the greatest lessons that the Ula guys teach from the stage as well as on their dream tour is the lesson called You Be You. And this is so incredibly important. This is something my best friend actually says to me all the time. And it's exactly what it says. We all have these amazing dreams and even these crazy dreams growing up. Like, I want to be a Disney princess. I want to be Mickey Mouse. I want to be, a fighter pilot, which was me. I want to be this, and that, right? But somewhere along the way, we lose sight of those dreams, those childhood visions. A teacher, preacher, mother, father, sister, or brother told us that what we wanted was stupid. We weren't good enough. We weren't smart enough. We weren't good looking enough. We only have a voice for radio, right? And we believed them. And so when we started to become an adult and we started to plan and live our life on those limiting beliefs that someone else created for us, we built a life inside of a box surrounded by walls that we put up in our own minds. And so today is the day that we start to tear down those walls. We break through what is holding us back and we start to rebuild the life that we were designed to live. Some of us know that we need a major overhaul, and some of us just need little tweaks here and there to have a better life because maybe we've already started breaking down the walls. But regardless of where we are, we can be better balanced. And so let's get started. There are 3 simple steps to getting your ULA life and finding this balance. Now they're simple, but they're not always easy. So some days it's going to be incredibly hard, incredibly difficult, right? We've all been there, but it is always so worth it. So let's start with step number 1. So have you ever been to a new city and you had to drive somewhere and you had no clue how to get there? Well, back in the day, we had to pull out this giant paper map, right? We had to turn it around 3 times to figure out where we were. If we even had the right map pulled out, let's be honest. We figured it out. We finally, reorient it 5 million times to try to figure out where we're going. We get there, but then we have to figure out how to miraculously fold it back up, which is always like a puzzle. Thankfully, nowadays, it's way less complicated. We simply grab our phones, we open up any sort of GPS app, whatever we use, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, etc., and we put in where we want to go. But before that, before it tells us where we want to go, there's something that our phone does that we may not have really realized, or we kind of knew about it, but we didn't register it totally, and that it's the fact that our phones automatically know exactly where we are right now. That blue little dot pops up and it says, this is where you are right now. Where do you want to go? And so knowing where we are right now is the first step that we need to do in order to change every aspect of our lives, to create that life of less stress, more balance, and greater purpose. And so we need to know where we are right now in those 7 key areas of life. And so step 1 of these 3 simple steps is the ULA wheel. This is kind of visualize this, right? If you can see it on the screen, if you're watching this as a webinar, you've got it. This is what it looks like. For those that are just listening to the audio version of this, think of it like a wheel with 7 spokes coming out of it, right? Or 7 spokes in it, I should say. So we've got the hub in the middle, then we have 7 spokes that come out like an old wooden wheel. And those are fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. So you can take a quick quiz to kind of figure out where you are right now in each of these 7 areas. And if one is way low and another is way high, and then you've got a few that are kind of in the middle, think of how unbalanced that wheel is going to look. And how bumpy that ride is going to be when we ride this wheel through our life. It's probably going to break down numerous times. And even if it's balanced, but you're balanced lower than you should be in all of the 7 areas, it may be smooth, but you're not going to get to where you want to go very quickly. The idea is to balance out so we have at least an even shape and then begin to build it so that we get to our dreams faster and so much more smooth. Then we can move on to step 2. So this is at the back of every single ULA book. You want to know exactly where you are in life, and by filling out the ULA wheel, you will. But then you also will have a good idea about where our stressors or a lack of purpose may be coming from. That's where step 2 comes into play. So where do we want to go in all 7 areas of life? And so for this step, we need to take a little time to plan our ULA lives by going through each F of ULA and thinking about a dream or a goal, and then either committing it to memory, writing it down, or putting it in our smartphone. I know for me, I just pull out notes on my iPhone. Right, I pull out notes and I write it all down. So go ahead, pause this right now and do this. So figure out a goal or a dream for every single one of these Fs. And if you need a reminder about what those Fs are, they are fitness, finance, family, field, which is our career, faith, friends, and fun. And I didn't really specify fitness either. Fitness includes mental health. It includes diet, mental health, physical activity, sleep, everything that can affect your physical body. So pause. If you haven't done it yet, pause. Okay. So once you've done that, let's kind of reflect and refine this a little bit more. So ULA Fitness, it means everything health and wellness in our lives, right? Primarily referring to how we use our body and what we put in our body. Then we have ULA Finance. This is all things personal finance. So how much debt do we have? And this is where we really need to check in with ourselves and be true to ourselves. Do we have that outstanding loan to our uncle? Is there something else there, that we really haven't been admitting in the back of our mind? Then we have family. So it doesn't matter whether you're single, you're committed, you're married, you're divorced, you have kids, you have stepkids, you have an extended family. It all belongs here. So whether they're blood related by marriage, or they are just your family because they are the people that love and support you the most and you see them frequently, they belong here. Field is our career and our profession, but most importantly, it's what we dedicate our life to. And so what we mean by this is, right now, if you're in the season, and this is just a season, right? So if right now I go to work in 9 to 5, that's my field. But I also volunteer at, let's say, the local food bank, and that's my passion. That is what I want to dedicate my life to. That's important to consider here in field. And it's something we need to think about. If we're a stay-at-home mom, that's our field. That's where we are this season of life. Then faith. This is based on gratitude, humility, and an understanding of a greater purpose in the world. So where does our faith lie when it comes to this? Not necessarily organized religion, but gratitude, humility, and understanding of our greater purpose. Then we have ULA Friends, and this is everything social. It includes both categories of friends and acquaintances. So if we have that coworker that's not really a friend, they're an acquaintance, but we still hang out occasionally, you can throw them in this category. And finally, we have fun, and this is our passion in life. What do we enjoy doing? I can tell you, I love working when it's in alignment with my zone of genius. When I'm doing work that is fun for me, it all ties in. That field combines with fun. And so you can think about that too. Maybe finance is fun for you. Great. It's not for me, but maybe it is for you. That ties in as well. So you can have some overlap here, and you can think about that, right? Maybe you're a travel agent and travel is your fun. Perfect. There's an overlap. But there doesn't necessarily have to be. And so once we've figured out our goal, our dream, and our one thing here, we've really tightened those up. We've figured out, what it is that the goal and that dream is in the 7 categories. Now we want to pick one, just one dream, one goal that will truly change our life and will start our transition to a better life. Now, we have to keep in mind here that this dream is not always the easy one, but it's the most important one. And I will openly admit, and if you were one of my coworkers last year, back in July 2020, I apologize. But I will openly admit that my one thing that I knew was the most important in order for other things to fall into place was for me to leave my job at the university, because it was so negatively impacting every other area of my life. And that's how ULA changed me. That's how ULA made me who I am today, on this path to absolute happiness, because I am properly aligned with my zone of genius, and I am so much better balanced in all of these 7 areas. So that's why it's not always the easy one. Oh man, I cried myself to sleep so many nights knowing that I was leaving that job. I felt like I was giving up on my students, on my coworkers, because I loved that job. I loved it, but it was so negatively impacting me. And so there's a really good possibility that you may not have even written this goal or dream down as the one goal or dream from the 7 areas, but you know that that's it. You're just afraid to write it down. If it scares you and it makes you a little nervous, that's it. That's the one. That's the one thing. And then we move on to step 3. So we figured out our one thing, but how are we going to get there? And so kind of going back to that whole GPS reference, being in a new city, we need to find a location. And so step 3 fits in perfectly with exactly what the GPS or the Maps app on our phones would do. First, it tells us where we are by popping up that little blue dot. Then it tells us where we want to go. Then it tells us, how do we get there? And so this is called the ULA path, and it's a list of all the steps that we need to take to reach our goals and our dreams. And so it'd be absolutely amazing if we had an app to tell us exactly what we need to do. But like I said, it is simple, but not always easy. However, we do have an app, by the way, that'll help us habit track once we decide and figure out what step 1, 2, and 3 are. Where are we now? Where are we going? And how are we getting there? The how are we getting there? We actually do have a companion app to help us with that now. And so we know where we are, step 1. We know where we're going, step 2. Now we need to decide every single day, how are we going to get there? How are we going to take action every day? We need to look at those action steps as little mini goals that we must accomplish every day because they'll lead us to our main goals and eventually to fulfilling our dreams and ultimately to creating our ULA life, which is this life of balance, purpose, and greatness. So what are these action steps? Well, here's a really cool little, trick. I'm trying to think of the right word, right? This really cool system on how to take these vital action steps. So think about it this way. If we take 3 steps a day towards our balanced life, then we will take over 1,000 steps per year. And so this 3x5 card right here, on the left, it shows you those things that we have to do, but they don't really help us get to one of where we want to go in one of the 7 key areas of life. So we have to get groceries, we have to get laundry, we have to pick up kids, we have to wash the car. Now, let's say you want to be a better parent. Sure, that pick up kids may move over to the other side. It depends on where you are right now. Let's say we need to change our diet. Sure, groceries, healthy groceries may move to the other side, but we're talking mostly about the fillers. Those things we have to do, but won't really help us get there on the left-hand side. Then on the right-hand side, you put 3 action steps that we need to take every single day. Well, really just this day because you have a new card every day. But 3 action steps that we need to take in order to get to one of the key areas of life. Now, we should really focus on making sure that there's at least 1 action step every day to help us get to our 1. And then the others can kind of rotate through the other 7 areas of life, or the other 6 areas of life, I should say. Okay. So as we come to a close in talking about this system, I want us to make a commitment. And don't make it to me, make it to yourself. You are designed for greatness and a purpose. You are so worth it. So let's make our commitment to the one thing that will move our life in the direction of less stress, more balance, and greater purpose. Let's go get our ULA life. So we always end when we talk about the ULA system the same way, by saying be grateful, have faith, and go get your ULA life. But we're not necessarily ending right now because I want to talk about some of the ways that we can continue to work on this, because we have these amazing products now that can really help us. So if this is something that resonates with you and you know this would make a difference in your life, then there are a couple of ways we can make this happen. So first off, I'm a certified ULA coach, which means I have numerous programs that tie into this system, particularly for people that are just starting out. A 10-week program where each week we get an hour one-on-one plus videos and content throughout the week. I also have a 3-week program called Unstuck. So the 10-week program is called Transform. The 3-week program is called Unstuck. And it's for those that, just kind of want to try it out, see if it's a fit for you and get unstuck. Figure out exactly what it is that is your one thing. And I can help coach you through that. So if you're the type of person that really needs additional accountability, those programs are great for you. We also have, for those that are really low in the area of finance, Green Gap program, which I am also Green Gap certified. And it's a financial mindset transformation program that will help individuals get out of debt. So I am not a financial advisor. I do not say that. This is about mindset and plugging into a system. When it comes to, saving for retirement, that type of thing, I refer you out to other people. But it is a wonderful first step. So there are those options. Then there's also this e-learning AI, meaning artificial intelligence driven program that has been created so that this is more affordable and accessible to the masses. And this is where I'm going to start to get my nerd out. I love the one-on-one coaching. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm a coach. I do that. I have numerous one-on-one coaching clients right now. But this e-learning platform makes me nerd out. It's that cool, you guys. It's that cool. So we already talked about what ULA is, and the purpose is that we exist to make the world better by providing this lifestyle framework that helps individuals create a life of balance, growth, and purpose. And the mission that we have now, because we've already hit 1 million lives, our mission is to change the world with a word by having a positive impact on 1 billion lives over the next 7 years with this ULA lifestyle framework. So the other thing that I want to emphasize about ULA is not only are these best-selling books, so they've been around for a while, they are a proven system, they've positively impacted over 1 million lives. The Dream Bus Tour has been to 48 states. It's covered in 27 layers of these handwritten dreams like I talked about, but also just to show you a little bit more about the culture. ULA has provided over 150,000 meals to children in need through ULA's Give Back program. And for every month that a single person is a member of this e-learning platform, another meal will be donated. Plus, we have over 1 million followers from around the globe on social media. So, what is this e-learning platform? Well, it's the same step-by-step personal development system that helps us create a life of balance, growth, and purpose. But now it's packaged in this beautiful, convenient little digital platform. And it's AI-driven, so it's customized coaching content, personalized to you. No one's dashboard is going to look exactly the same because it's all based on how we answered the questions to figure out where we are in the wheel. And then from there, we create our own individual action and habits in order to get us there. And it tracks that and it follows it along and it manipulates content based on our interactions with it. And so it's this goal setting made easy, interactive, fun. It's gamified. There are badges you can earn. You can share them on social media. It's super cool. And it's delivered at a pace that's super easy to understand. It's easy to apply and it's quick to see results. And so how does it work? Well, ideally, though it's month to month with a 30-day money-back guarantee, if you realize it's not right for you, that's fine. But the idea is that it's a year of transformation to find balance, growth, and purpose. So you log into this innovative e-learning program. It personalizes the content to our unique goals. It helps us create breakthroughs to our biggest challenges, and it guides us with step-by-step recommendations for a year of transformation. Included in that is community. So you're never alone. Yes, it's e-learning, so it's separated, but you can also have the option of tapping into community if you know that's something that we need to hold us accountable. And so we've got a couple of different ways to tap into that. And once you get in, we can talk about all of that, but there's little inner circles, there's monthly summits around the world, and then there is an annual conference as well. And then there are accountability tools. I talked about that daily tracker, right? It's a habit tracker. That's an app that is a companion to the goals and the breakthroughs that you are doing on the e-learning platform. And so that way we feel the momentum with each click as we take the action necessary to create our best lives. And so how does the system work when it's adapted to this e-learning program? Well, phase one is the Design My Life Blueprint. So it's a proven lifestyle program that just really helps us get our extraordinary new life, the where we want to go, right, into motion. And so it's initially, this phase one, it's daily, self-paced. It includes an in-depth assessment to identify hidden stressors in our lives. It designs our own detailed lifestyle blueprint that's in alignment with our own goals and dreams. And it helps us learn a skill to emerge focused, energized, and ready to accomplish our dreams. It really gets us motivated. And trust me, I've been going through this e-learning platform, and I had already been doing ULA for a year, right? But now I'm on this e-learning platform, and it just brings it to this whole other level. And so then once you complete that, then you get into the My Breakthrough Experience, which is weekly for 12 weeks. And so this is very personalized content that helps us break through our limiting beliefs and our bad habits. And it helps us build confidence and self-worth. Then after that 12 weeks, we move into our personalized path. And so once we've broken through those roadblocks that have held us back in the past, that's when this personalized path unlocks. It's monthly. And we continue more in depth as we review, revise, and reaffirm what we want in our life. And there are checkpoints along the way to keep us focused and on task, along with our own personalized content, because if I haven't said it enough, right, it's personalized, personalized, personalized. All right. So all of that's what is included to include that community, those inner circle accountability groups if you want, the summits that provide positive and a supportive community locally, and they are also held virtually as well. And then finally, that ULApalooza, which is an annual event. It's hosted by the founders. It's high energy. It's full blown. It's a transformational experience that will help us create that life of balance, growth, and purpose. All right. I think I have talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. So, what do you do after the year? So let's say you completed your year of life-changing curriculum. You can choose to advance to level 2, where your program will unlock further customized content, right? So this is not just a year. This is just getting you to that year so you see that breakthrough, you see that transformation, and then continuing on from there as well. So who is this for? This is what's most important. It's for those individuals that are stressed and overwhelmed and are looking for a way to balance it all. For those feeling the weight of debt and looking to improve our finances. For individuals seeking deeper connections with family and friends. For people looking to clarify their purpose on this planet. For those who want to up-level their personal life and business. For anyone who's seeking a proven, simple framework to map out our best lives. For those of us who want to be a part of a positive and encouraging community. For individuals who are carrying the weight of those past failures and looking to gain self-confidence again. For people who are fatigued from this crazy game of comparison that we have in our society, and we simply want to run our own race. And for those of us who have lost sight of our dreams and are looking and seeking for ways to find more joy and passion in our lives. There is nothing else like this in any industry. Trust me on this. Mastermind programs are usually $25,000 plus. Private coaching is usually $6,000 plus. You attend a live seminar or an event. It's, $19.95, meaning like $1,995 plus. Well, you can get this year-long transformation on this e-learning platform starting off initial membership fee is $77. That just includes an admin cost. After that, it's $47 a month. And the first 30 days, it is a money back guarantee. So there's no harm in trying it out. You can get that $77 back. So it includes everything we've talked about, plus providing that meal a month to a child in need. It's just so worth it. And so our year of transformation, it begins today. It continues today if we're already in it. And together we can change the world by making sure that we are all better balanced. Because when we are better balanced, we serve others better. And when those people that we're serving become better balanced, they serve others better. And it is just this beautiful ripple effect of positivity into the world. And we can do this. We can find more balance. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today, to find and check in with ourselves to figure out where we are, where we want to go, and how we're going to get there. Reach out to me and let's dig into this deeper. I'll also put the links in the show notes on this page so that everyone has them. Thank you so much. Let's go get our balanced lives.